listeners, it's another day at the Daily BM. We're about to kick this show off today and kick you right in the teeth with my co-host, Mike, and my other co-host, who doesn't know when to shut up, Eric C. What's going on, fellas?
What's happening?
Just another day, man. Just another day.
I hear you.
So I want to talk about a little something today. I went through the drive-thru this morning.
Of course
shocker,
you did.
Right? Shocker, fat ass goes through a drive-thru.
Oh, you really? You went through the drive-thru?
I went through the Starbucks. I was a little bougie this morning because we haven't gone shopping yet at the house, grocery shopping.
Right.
So I was going to Walgreens anyway to pick up something for my wife. And I was like, you know, man, coffee sounds good. I'm going to get one. So I go through and I just need to ask from a guy's perspective, why is it every time you go through a drive-thru and a chick's voice sounds super hot and then she's not? You ever? I mean, is it just
way
me?
more than often too.
Is it me or no? I'm just saying. But here's
Honestly,
the shit.
I don't pay attention to that.
But the shit kicker is when I pulled up to the window, it was a dude.
No way.
I swear to you, I was like, oh my god, I really thought they were hot.
I'm starting to see a trend here, Brad.
I know,
right?
man. I'm starting to think maybe you were right, man. Maybe it isn't 2 out of 3. Maybe I am one, another sister.
One of the batch.
I think I'm just one of the batch, man. I mean, it was just taking 50 years to figure it out. I don't know. But it brings me back to there's a topic. I saw a reel this morning on Instagram, and it was the power of pussy. And let me ask you something. I mean, you might have done this when you were younger. All right. I don't know. I don't think Mike is, because Mike's kind of like a one like straight narrow dude. But guys will drop whatever they are doing in order to go hit a kitty. So my question is Eric, have you ever like got a DM or a phone call from a girl and they're like, hey, I want you to come over here, now because I'm horny or whatever? Did you drop whatever the hell you were doing?
Yeah, man. Are you
there?
kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's like the best thing in the world when that happens to you. But then you have to feel like a dick afterwards because you're like, oh, did I screw my friends over? No, they would have done the same fucking thing.
Well, that's my whole point. So it's like, would you drop whatever you would drop whatever you were doing, and you've done it, obviously. Then,
yeah, of course.
Like, so you were hanging out with your buddies, and then got a freaking message and went. Did you make up a bullshit excuse, or did you like go to town?
Did you say the guy that just messaged me? I'm not falling for that shit again.
As Mike puts on a smile, we all know, baby, it's okay.
But yes, most definitely. It's like, hey, not for nothing. Susie blows and fucks just text me. You gots to go, Sean.
So are you honest with your guy friends, or do you lie?
Yeah, no, you don't have to lie. Be honest with them. Tell them, hey, I want some pussy.
And then you haul ass.
And there you go.
So my question to you, Mike, the same thing. Have you ever gotten a message, whether it be your girlfriend, your wife, whatever, and they're like, hey, I want you to come home, wink, wink, you know why? And have you you've never gotten that ever?
No, because I've been in relationships, and I'm like,
wait, what's that got to do with anything? So what you're saying is your girlfriend or your wife has never freaking messaged you and said, hey, come home and give me some dick?
No, not when I'm hanging out with friends.
You poor bastard.
No, and I wouldn't do it to my friends anyway.
Well, I meant later, like let's say it's getting to the witching hour, you're hanging out with your friends. Then let me just create another scenario.
No,
because I can understand if it's like you're going out with your buddies. I guess when you were single,
the answer is no. The answer is
all
no.
of it, all the above.
Ever. All the above.
Even single? For real?
When I've been very rarely single. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
I'm a serial dater.
The longest, okay, all honesty, since the age of 16, the longest that I've been single is a month and a half.
Oh, shit. That's
Are
way
you
more
serious?
than
Man,
yeah.
damn. He is a serial dater.
I guess
compared
to you, Mike, I'm putting up rookie numbers.
And that month and a half, like, was basically I was 100% focused on myself. Like, I didn't even want to, like, see a female, because I had just gotten out of a 10-year marriage, and I was like, I'm going to focus 100% on me.
For a month and a half.
So I need to ask a question.
Because then, I met somebody that I liked, and we hung out, and
you get lucky sometimes. Seriously.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. When we got out of that month and a half, like you were in silence by yourself, whatever the hell you were doing. So when you met that other person, how long did it take before you were in the sack?
Oh,
shortest time ever,
like
the longest time.
2 days, I guess. I don't know.
All right,
Second date.
Impressive. Most impressive. Eric, we already know your answer to yours.
I know.
It's probably
I
first
don't
day.
even have to. That's it. It always is. It's first hour. It's like they call me the inevitable for a reason. Because if you think that for 1 second we're not sleeping together on the first date, you're denying the inevitable.
I think it's more common. Like, I don't know. Back when, like, I know in my time, I don't know about the '90s, Mike, because you're a '90s child, right? Pretty much as far as the dating world is concerned.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay,
probably.
so in the 80s and in the early 90s, it wasn't like there wasn't a first date like hit it and quit it kind of mentality as we get as what I believe is today. Was it like that during the 90s and 2000s for you guys? I mean, or no? Or was it pretty simple? Or was it the same as how it was for me in the 80s?
I'm not a good person to ask that question.
I am.
Eric?
Yeah, that's a good question for Eric.
2000 is when I graduated. So I had a high school sweetheart from 97 till 2000. And then 1 year after. So there was no playing around. That's high school for me. You know what I mean? Now getting out of high school, moving down to Florida, whole different story. 2001 to 2005, I want to say, is when I was playing the game, quote unquote. And then after that was when I was like, I want a real girlfriend again. And that's when I started dating one of my exes.
Interesting. Just curious. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just wondering.
Next thing you know, 20 years later, they're sending you weird videos over the internet machine. And I'm forwarding to my boys.
I feel it was kind of weird for me because I'm a 95. I graduated 95. So we got kind of three, like I'm 5 years older than Eric. Mm-hmm. And then Brad, you're what, 6 years older than me?
I was waiting for you to say you're like what, 15 years older than me? I was waiting.
No, I'm not throwing a jab. So I mean, it was just that difference. So what I feel like is weird is like, and this, I'm speaking for myself, my own personal experience. This is obviously not everybody's experience because everybody had different experience. But I feel like that 95 era, like we got hit the hardest with the AIDS.
Yeah, you did
rhetoric.
Actually.
Like the rhetoric, you know, like as far as I remember sitting in like when I was in junior high, sitting in sex ed classes because they still taught sex ed, saying, you know, if you have sex with Mary and Mary has sex with John and John has sex with, you know, Katie, you know, you've had sex with Katie indirectly.
Right.
And then it goes to the partner chain. So it's like your first time you could literally be having sex with 1,000 different partners. And it only takes one of those people in that chain to have AIDS for you to have, you know, a probability of catching AIDS. Like I remember seeing that vividly in sex class. I mean, I think I was like in junior high, like 8th grade. So you're in that puberty, super horny stage and you just kind of like, oh, fuck.
You're like, holy shit, I don't want to die.
And they're like, you know, but AIDS is not the worst of it. You know, you could also get chlamydia and like.
I can't believe you actually had sex ed class. We didn't have sex ed.
No, they got rid of it. They got rid of it.
So did they? Let me ask you something, Mike. Since you were talking about sex ed class and stuff like that, did they teach like condom use and things like that and protection?
No.
So even in your era in the late 90s,
no, that was
mid-90s.
Yeah, that was too far. Like they were teaching 100%. They were saying the only way to like be safe is to abstain.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. They weren't teaching safe sex. They were teaching reproductive organs, abstinence, all the things that can happen. Like, you know, you can also get, I remember there being like a big pregnancy push where they were like, you know, if you get pregnant, it ruins your life. At an early age, you know, because, and I remember like the commercials and stuff where you'd have like the girl, like, you know, like, she was a cheerleader in the commercial and then she found out she's pregnant and she's in her room crying and she doesn't want to tell her parents. And then she has to go to a special school. So she gets separated from all her friends. Then she has a baby that she's sitting there holding, you know, watching all her friends going off to college and riding in the fun cars and stuff. And she's sitting there like looks destitute and sad and poor. And it's like, you know, don't let this be you.
They really used to make the Prego lady look like a bum, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
They really did.
I mean, do you
they made the guy
that?
look like a stud? Yeah, oh, absolutely. The guy looked like a stud. Slow down, Pasted. He slowed down. And then all of a sudden, this poor girl, like you said, she looks a little homely and unkempt all of a sudden. Like she forgot how to take care of herself when she was Prego. Yeah. The next thing you know, she can't hang out with, you know, her friends. Susie Blows and Fox,
friends.
Cindy and Latifah.
I mean, they even had videos and stuff about it. Like I remember, like like that Avril Lavigne video where she's just like a skater boy. He's just a skater boy. Like that whole video,
Right.
Where it shows the girl getting in a relationship, like the girl that he wanted that didn't want him, having a shitty life. Because he started off as a skater boy, and I remember that happened like in the 90s. That was like, it was like very that kind of imagery. So like, I was pretty like afraid of dying at that age and catching it because it was like end of days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a scary situation. So it was like, you really had to like pick your partners, so to speak. And they didn't know a lot about it in 92 to 95. Like that's when it got scary. And because before, like I think when Brad was in school, it was more like only gay men, homosexuals got AIDS. Is that true or false?
When he was in school?
I know you're being serious, but it just makes me laugh. I keep seeing this like revolving thing, but
no, like in 85. Like when did you graduate? 86?
I graduated in 87.
89. So in 89. So like when you were in junior high,
it was 80.
At that point, it was pretty much
84, 85. Yeah.
84, 85 was still mostly a homosexual disease.
Correct. So basically, in a nutshell, in my generation, even like in my brother's generation, the 70s, right? In the 70s, it was still like sex, drugs, rock and roll. So, I mean, everybody was like how the 60s was, free love, people were getting sick, but they honestly thought they were dying from pneumonia and things like that. They didn't know about HIV until the 80s, during the Ronald Reagan administration, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's when they really truly
you're
found
right,
out.
actually.
So,
you're right. Mm-hmm.
So that being said, in our generation, you're right. It was mostly like they thought it was a homosexual disease. But the problem is that they didn't realize there are bisexual men, you know what I mean, that would have sex with these gay men, and then they would turn around and have sex with heterosexual women.
Freddie Mercury.
Correct.
Yeah, but as far as you being in, like you personally, like you probably never thought AIDS would affect you because you're not gay. Like you weren't homosexual.
We were never even told in my era in middle school and even into high school.
Yeah.
It wasn't taught. It wasn't talked about. It was, like you said, it was a gay thing. So everybody turned their head and ignored it until heterosexuals in the late or the early 90s, like in 91, started getting sick. And then and then once HIV was like testing and, they were seeing that the heterosexual community was getting ill as well. Then they put a lot of research on. So, I mean, a lot of gay. Now, this is coming straight from my brother's mouth. All right, a lot of gay people have a lot of problems with the Reagan administration, for instance, because they felt like because it was a gay disease that they thought they weren't pouring a lot of money into research during the 80s because of it, and he was a driving force behind it. That's that's what I was told by him, and I was like, huh, okay, for each his own. It could be true, couldn't be true. I don't know, but
once the 90s hit, you had famous people that were coming out saying, "Hey, I have Eazy-E was a huge one."
Yeah.
And when he said, "Hey, I have AIDS," like the whole entire world almost stopped.
Yeah,
way bigger than Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
I don't understand that, but
that's
still,
because
like, that
Eazy-E wasn't homosexual.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah,
and then
he
you
was
had
heterosexual.
Magic Johnson.
And then you have Magic. Right. Magic Johnson, the ultimate player.
I mean, all of a sudden,
totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, you had like, when people were like scrounging and trying to find like drugs, like Dallas Buyers Club, the movie.
Great movie.
When people were like doing that kind of stuff, trying to find Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey.
No, right.
I haven't either. It's a really good movie from what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of like hit home for me because it was kind of like I don't want to play like roulette with my dick, so to speak. Like I didn't want to like I really had to be into somebody in order to do it because I was like, I don't want to fucking just risk it for the, I'd rather jerk off and be safe than like, die.
Like we are now.
That. I mean, that's me personally.
We jerk off daily, so we're safe.
Yeah. I mean, that was me personally. Like, I know there's a lot of people that didn't have that experience, but I felt like that. Like, I honestly did. I was like, fuck, man. Like, seriously, like.
Let me tell you about that one then. So because like in the 80s, for instance, I played Russian roulette with my dick all the time because we didn't know.
Almost everybody did.
I mean, we were more worried about getting the girl pregnant, making sure you're pulling out, making sure she's on birth control. Because a lot of girls, even in our era, they were on birth control in the late 80s. So, and if they weren't, you had to have a strong pullout game, which you still didn't think about it. It's stupid because you pullout games, you still got pre-lube, pre-leakage, you know what I mean? That has sperm cells in them. So
now, back in that day, Brad, wasn't the clap was like a huge deal, right?
Actually, no. The biggest one in my era that, as far as people getting it, like, something, was chlamydia.
That's a clap.
Oh, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I'm old. Leave me alone. I just know this is a medical term. I mean, I've never had chlamydia, so I don't know. It's called
everyone. I'd like
Eric.
Brad.
Yes,
Eric. Everyone,
Yes.
I'd like to say Brad just admitted he's old. He just admitted it.
Fuck you, Mike.
Do the clap.
15 minutes, 50 seconds into the show,
and he got his first fuck you.
Brad has finally admitted that he is old.
Yeah, I am pretty fucking old. At
Okay,
least I'm not old where
on.
I'm cranking my car up in the morning with a hand turn. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm
Continue.
close, but not that close. But yeah, so chlamydia was a big thing. The clap, if you want to call it that. And believe it or not, was like warts, like people getting like a genital wart.
Really?
Yeah, it was an issue too because it wasn't as extreme, so to speak. And then, believe it or not, another thing that I've heard from other people, like I've been tested. Like I don't have HIV, I don't have herpes, I don't have none of that shit. But people getting herpes, that's a real big one because that's like luggage. It sticks with you for life. You're never getting rid of it.
Yeah.
But now I've dated people with it. Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That,
in my past.
That didn't scare the shit out of you by any chance?
Yeah, of course it does. But
there's still a person at the end of the day.
What's that?
There's still a real person at the end of the day. They have real feelings too. It's like, man, somebody gave it to them, obviously.
Yeah, I have dated people, and I know a lot of people. I know a lot of females and males in this town that have it that people may and may not know.
What town is that?
So let me ask you guys something, and since we're on the herpes kick here,
you are.
No, I mean I don't mean
you
like
are.
that. I am. All right. So
yeah, you're on the kick.
So do you feel like that's something like, let's say you're on Valtrex or whatever, right? It is. Do you feel like that's something that person should like relay to you and say, hey, listen, I have herpes, before they have sex with you?
Yes.
Do you know how many people probably don't tell you?
Probably everyone other than maybe 1% of the community is honest about it, I would think. Like, assume.
I guess because there's such a dirty thing about it. You know what I mean?
But you know what? There's also like, I guess you have the herpes, what is it, type 1, where it's the mouth, like you get the cold sores and stuff like that.
Cold sores and stuff like that, correct.
Which is very prevalent as well. And I guess they prescribe Valtrex for that as well.
Mm-hmm. It puts it into like a submission or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it keeps it from breaking out. It keeps it from having like an outbreak if you start to develop a cold sore. I guess It keeps it from like creating having like a full breakout.
When you were younger, Mike, did you ever get cold sores? I know I did when I was young. I'm talking like early young.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's had a cold sore at some point.
I never get those.
I've never gotten them since
anymore, but that was just
ever since. But
young.
I had one when I was a kid. That and canker sores. Canker sores freaking hurt like hell.
Could be the Valtrex I'm on. No, I'm just kidding. Keeping them at bay. No, I'm just joking. But all joking aside.
I remember being an asshole one time.
Once. One time?
Yeah, one time.
Okay.
No, it's one specific time because a buddy of mine, we went on a camping trip. Not camping. It was a ski trip.
Back Mountain.
And I had saw in his bag that he had Valtrex. So I Googled what Valtrex. I didn't. Googled
I was gonna say,
Googled what it was.
Yeah, you did.
I Googled what Valtrex was, and I was like, "Holy shit!" It was like
What the
herpes
fuck is
medication. I'm like,
Valtrex?
"Motherfucker, why didn't you like say you got fucking herpes?"
Before I kissed you last night, you should have told me, asshole.
No. We weren't having like any sexual escapades and stuff like that. But the girl that he was dating was like a friend of mine, and I knew she was like super like a germaphobe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there was no way that like she'd be dating somebody that has herpes just by her personality. You know what I'm talking about? Like you have somebody that has that personality type. Like, they would just be like, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Like there's just no fucking way. So I'm like, dude, why wouldn't you fucking say something? He's like, bro, I have cold sores. That's like for my cold sores. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I
Makes
believe
sense
it.
now.
Wink. Just kidding.
It made sense. I was like, fuck, man, that'd be like something you fucking should share with the group.
Yeah, let's before we go out on today's excursion, Mike, why don't you come a little closer and just kiss me so I can
Hey,
prove
can I
it to
borrow
you?
your underwear for a little bit? Yeah, you definitely don't want to wear your friend's underwear.
Well, and
No,
that
I'm
was
good, dude.
also
I'll just
my naivete at the time because I really didn't know a lot about like those type of diseases, how they transferred. So I didn't know if it was something that like you could sit on a toilet seat and fucking like it rubs off and you can fucking rub it on your balls. You know what I mean? I didn't know like.
Is that a myth though? I thought that was a myth.
No,
you can
it's
pick
just
up
like
crabs.
crabs. It's like crabs, dude. You can get crabs from sitting on a toilet seat after some.
Yeah, which I've
that is
heard
true.
that.
I do know that for a fact.
You know, and I didn't.
Go ahead, Mike.
You know, and it was like a ski trip and shit like that. So like, you know, sometimes you fucking like just you grab each other's fucking like the ski overalls and shit because we all had the same size and they were all fucking rentals.
Right.
So it just you fucking grab whichever one it is and fucking throw them on because they all fucking look the same. It didn't. We were all like the same size, so it wasn't like that big of a fucking deal. I mean, it could be getting mixed up and shit. And I'm like, oh, here you got fucking, you know, junk on your fucking shit. I don't know. I don't want a fucking microbe getting out and I
junk
get
on your fucking microbe. Shit.
And that was like, I mean, because I don't like, even to this day, like I don't like researching anything medical. So like medical, I try to stay away from. It's not an interesting topic to me.
No.
So I don't like going down that rabbit hole.
Would you like to go skiing sometime soon?
Yeah, sure. I love skiing.
Or camping. I mean, I'm
yeah,
all
sure.
in.
Fucking Brokeback Mountain. Let's Brokeback that shit up. You know?
Can we all dress up like cowboys and stuff and be like, you know, hanging out by the fire?
Oh, but I just literally was like, man, what the fuck? Like, I kind of freaked me out a little bit. Like it did, you know, and I didn't know enough about it at the time. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
It was just kind of like, whoa. You know,
well, I was just wondering, like, you know, if you really, really cared about the person and you knew how to like not get it,
tell them,
you know what I mean, and things of that nature. Would you date them? Like, let's say you weren't married right now. You know, obviously, Eric, you're not. But Mike, if you weren't married, would you date somebody that told you? I mean, like, let's say you went out on a couple of dates or had a great time, so you would drop it, you would end the relationship.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I know it sounds fucked up. I would date a porn. That I would date a porn star.
You're allowed to have your own opinion. Shit.
You know it's fucked up. I would date a porn star. They go bang sometimes to dudes, but if she like came down with herpes, I wouldn't fucking date her.
Regular, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like the porn.
I'll be honest with you. Like the first time I ever got an HIV test, like the first time in my life, I was fucking nervous. And I don't know why. Like, I mean, I was sitting there while they took I was waiting for the results. I was going through my head like all the people that I'd had sex with. Going,
all the guys.
Is that person sketchy? Is that person not sketchy? Like, oh my god! Like, oh my god! You know, and that first one he came back in, and that was the time that doctor fucking played that fucking prank on me.
Your doctor.
I was getting really fucking nervous. You know,
a dick.
I think we covered that in the store on here before, didn't we? Yeah. Okay. Funny. Yeah. So the guy was fucking just a douchebag. You know, like fucking going, oh, well, I got some bad news to tell you, and he was going down the list, and HIV was last, and it was like he had everything else was great. So I was like, oh fuck, here we go. I got this shit. This is gonna fucking ruin my whole life. You know, and he's like, nope, you have no HIV, which means I can't make any money off of you. And I'm like, you motherfucker, that's not funny. It's bad news for you, not bad news for me.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, like fucking don't be a fucking comedian.
You got
medical.
Your bedside manner is fucking lame.
So I was scared that first time I ever got it. Like,
I'll be honest with you, I was getting life insurance. I was like 26 or 27 years old, and I was getting that, dude. And I was thinking about all the shit I'd done between, like Mike said, all that shit as I'm giving blood and as I'm waiting on the fucking results. And it takes 30 days back then. 30 days, dude. You had to sweat. Geez. So I was sitting there for 30 days going like this. Oh my god! What if this thing come? What if this thing? Dude, I was like, what if this thing comes back and I'm fucking positive?
What are you gonna?
I'm just recently, married. You know what I mean? I would have probably obviously given it to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we were trying to have children at the time, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden they're like, "Yep, you're negative," and I was like,
"Thank God!" Yeah,
and then, you know what I mean? It was like that. It's like Mike said. I get the letter. It's like when somebody gets like a college acceptance letter.
Yes,
but worse. You know what I mean?
Like, I don't want to play devil's advocate here, but
here we go.
I mean, honest to God, what happens? It comes back positive.
You die.
Your life's over.
You die.
Right? Is your life's over at that point?
Not today.
No,
not today. They can prolong it now. Now it's not. I mean, now there's medications you can take and stuff, and they can really keep it as long as it doesn't progress to AIDS. Like it's just HIV. They can put it in remission now.
It also depends on the strand of HIV.
Yeah, there's come a long way with research on it, but
correct.
But they can't find a cure for cancer.
I know.
I automatically went into the. If I do, now I have to go and notify everybody. And how mortifying would that fucking phone call be? Like,
it'd be horrible.
Hey, it'd be like this. Hey, Brad, how you doing today, buddy? Listen, I got some really terrible fucking news. You know that one time at band camp where like, you let me stick in your ass? Well, I got AIDS, so
My BH
you might
just
want to get
puckered a
yourself
little
checked.
bit.
I'd be like this. I'd be like, AIDS? What?
Yeah.
No, I would not do the Cartman on you. I'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
You'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
You know,
Seriously? I was
I
like,
have
yeah. I'd be like, you know that one time you're sleeping and I took advantage of you and you woke up with a bloody butthole?
I'd be like, geez, I just thought it was the Taco Bell I had the night before when we went out. I didn't know. That's the norm every time I go to Taco Bell after drinking.
Kind of gag a little bit. I'm thinking about that.
All joking around aside, I have actually been in the room where somebody said that their lover came back with HIV. It was a homosexual.
Oh my God.
And they've been together still for 30 years. He's lived with it for 30 years. An amazing person. Seriously, an amazing person, you know. And I just remember my other person having to wait again 30 days because this was a while, obviously 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And had to wait to get the results back. And you want to talk about a stressful situation, you know, after talking to this individual. And so, I mean, it's real life. You know, I know like we joke around and stuff like that. And we cut up, but this was a serious topic today because, and it's personal to me, believe it or not. You know, and the medical community is doing such a fantastic job and they're striving every day and making better medications. I mean, obviously that's what keeps this individual alive. You know, and the only bad part, the negative on it is that it shoots your liver out over time.
The medication.
From the medications, correct.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, but one organ has to take a beating because it has to, you know, I mean, your liver is basically your filter of your body, you know what I mean? So it has to.
It's your liver or your kidneys. One of them's going to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just the way it is. But, you know, hopefully one day we have a cure, like a solid cure, a vaccine, whatever it is, and knock this nasty shit off the planet.
You know, one of my questions would be like, being in that situation, then you come back after the 30 days and now you're negative and your partner's positive. I personally would find it almost impossible to ever be intimate with that person again.
Just that's that big of a turnoff for you, where even though you can prevent it from you getting it, you would still leave that person.
You know, it's easy.
I don't know.
I feel like it's easy for us to say right now. Because
we're not dealing with it.
You haven't been with somebody for 20 years or 10 years or whatever, and that you
I'm not saying I'd leave them.
No, I'm saying it is hard,
asking.
but there's other ways to be intimate without penetration. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. We all like to, you know, have that closeness.
I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, I mean, the act of having sex with that other individual, I don't know if I could bring myself to do that because I would constantly be worried.
It's always in the back of your mind.
No matter how much medication or how much protection or whatever was available, it would still be in the back of my mind.
I believe it probably is always.
Because they always tell you, like, okay, well, this is 99% safe. You know what I mean? And you're like, well, there's that fucking 1%.
1%.
And knowing my luck trail, I'm probably going to fall in that 1%.
If I'm that unlucky bastard.
I get it because
so I don't know, like, that would be such a hard situation to be in, you know, like.
Yeah, it would. I think this show should be shown to all the middle schoolers out there as a sex ed video. This one was very informative.
Maybe the second half of the show, not the first half.
Yeah, definitely not the first. Not the first.
First half started off a little bit raunchy, and then we moved into more serious topics. But that's the beauty of our show.
That's what we do. We shoot the shit.
You know, and I feel like this generation now that's going through school, like my daughter's generation, you know, they had the same problem that with like AIDS that I had with COVID.
Right.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like, oh, you can get sick just, you know, by breathing the air, like contact, like you need to stay 6 feet apart. Like it might not kill you, but it could. And it's just, you know, I wonder if the kids, you know, today that went through that in their high school formative years, how much that's going to affect them down the road.
Right. Well, I think it's like anything,
you know, because they went through a pandemic.
But you know what? Every 100 years we have a pandemic. You know, so it's just
or less.
We still bounce back as humanity. Generations have bounced back. I mean, we went through, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. So, I mean, you know, and now we have 100 years later, the next pandemic. So you're right. I think the kids are probably going to struggle. But, you know, I feel like the youth today has a tendency to be quicker to go, yeah, we've been there, did that, but now it's maybe time to live our lives and move forward. I mean, I don't know about your daughter. I don't know about the conversations you had, but I know like my sons have like completely said, hey, we're aware of it, but we're doing our thing, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Has your daughter said the same thing, or is she kind of like more like? I'm just asking.
No,
for
they're
a
doing their
female
own thing.
perspective.
They're all doing their own thing. But I think, I mean, the thing I think with that though is the problem is that had a definite ending. You know, like we had a
Right.
president come out and say it's over, it's done, we've completed the task. Whereas with HIV and shit like that, we never had somebody come out and say, "Hey, this is done, it's over."
There's never been closure, and there never will be.
There's never been closure. You know, I mean,
Right.
with the Black Plague, like that back in the day, people just it just ended because the people that survived had a natural immunity to it, and they got better with sanitation. You know,
Right.
like it wiped out such a mass population that it killed anybody that wasn't immune to it. So the people left over were.
You know, it's
most
weird.
part.
It's weird that you say that before we close the show. I was just like,
Yeah.
when you're talking about the Black Plague and things like that, I saw a report. And I can't remember if it was Black Plague or something, but it was a disease that they hadn't seen for like 100 to 200 years, and it surfaced in Europe for a brief moment.
Right.
Brief. So
it was weird. I you know, it's when you brought that up, it triggered that memory of something, but nothing else has been said about it. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just simply saying it triggered.
Well, we can talk about we'll talk about that on the next show or a couple shows down the road. So, Brad, you want to tell them where to find us and how to
you
connect
can
with
find
us?
You can find us on the Tiki Talk and on the Tweet Machine at _ the Daily BM. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook, and that's at the Daily BM. Also, dailybm.com, or email us at info@. Hey, fellas, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Stay away from the SARS.
Mikey?
I like that, Eric. We're going to leave it on that one.
And I'm going to say, wrap that, Willie. You can see you guys tomorrow. Catch you on the flip side.
Deuces.